Hello, lore-keepers. Welcome back. Let us see where we left off, shall we? Ah, yes. A dragon across the sea. The sun, the so-called eye of the dragon, peered at him from lids of clouds. It reflected its glow on the water that caused his exceptional eyesight to be a liability. His nostrils inhaled smells that he's never smelled before, including large fish that he's never even seen. All night he traveled, filled with the hope that land would soon come. And yet the more he flew, the more he realized the sight of land was a privilege.
Oh, where is everything? It can't be all sea, can it?
The flap of his wings grew slower. His body drifted in the air like a leaf, carried and tossed around. A blur stretched in the distance, wiggling as a creeper. It never grew closer, always remaining perfectly out of reach. It wasn't the only thing that felt perfectly out of reach. How could he keep his promise to his oath uncle? It hadn't been a full day, and yet he found himself ready to quit. But he couldn't do that, could he? He made a promise to Rourke the night before, and to his parents many times over.
You're a dragon, Giwin. Isn't that what Rourke said? Dragons don't quit. Dragons don't quit.
Giwin continued to flap his wings, the wind racing past. He couldn't quit. Not now. Night fell and the sun rose again, his mantra still on his lips. The only time he stopped repeating it was when he dove for food. His parents birthed an adventurer. His oath uncle trained a dragon. He couldn't simply rest at meager discomfort. Besides, if his parents made it across the sea, who's to say it was impossible? Hours turned to days, and the sun blinked several times before Giwin could find rest. A small islet graced his view, maybe big enough for all the young dragons in his age group side by side. But no more. His wings burned with 100 coals, threatening to stay in place for the rest of his life. He dare not turn on his side, lest his wings yell at him with a fiery vengeance. Instead, he had to take solace on the stony rocks that were soaked from the crashing waves of the sea.
Are all lands like this? Just stone and water? Not really a point of traveling if this is all to look forward to.
A simple glance was all Giwin needed to know what was around him. Instead, he turned to the sky, which seemed different than it was on land. Yet, it was the same sky, of course, but the clouds seemed smaller and plentiful, grayer even. It must have been due to the chilly nature of the sea. Even the sun couldn't quite warm the ever-shifting waves that constantly sprayed itself onto his scales. The winds were so powerful, too, he had to tuck his wings in to avoid them carrying him away.
Well, I should sleep. Who knows when I'll get another chance.
Giwin awakened. His eyes turned to the yellow snakes dancing in their dens of black clouds. With a roar, the sky threatened him with this warning: take flight or perish in my seas. Without another warning, Giwin took flight. Normally, he would simply run to his cave or seek shelter. But now, he had nothing. No one. Rain fell like sparks from a stray fireball, endless and consuming everything. The mere weight of them held him down, and the dampness made it harder to fly. With fury, the sky reminded him that he was one dragon, one speck in the vast oceans. The snakes in the cloud dens began to twist and turn, hissing as they slithered. Light fell from the sky as fast as he could blink. Pillars of lightning snuck up behind him, striking every other second as they closed in. In a moment, in a second, Giwin understood how his prey felt. To be watched from the shadows, knowing danger could snap at any moment. Powerless to stop them, the heart thuds with anticipation of when it all will end. Then, the predator pounced.
Giwin, you alright, kiddo? You've been sleeping for quite some time. If you don't get up, your mother's going to think I killed her only hatch. Come on, up we go.
Father?
Giwin looked around. The sea that surrounded him before was replaced with black sands, ones that glittered as jewels. With a twinkle, they caught his eyes, just as the calm seas caught his ear. His claws crushed the sand underneath. They warmed him like coal, almost as if he was back home.
Where am I? I just remember the lightning.
Giwin stretched his wing. A surge of pain immediately made him retract it. Snaking his head, he realized his wing got struck. A black patch covered his scales around the alula. He seemed to have lost the talon in the process, too.
Oh no. Please tell me I can still fly.
Giwin tried to stretch his right, damaged wing, but the pain was too much.
That looks bad, kiddo. You might want to stay still a bit.
Giwin looked around. The black sandy beach was completely empty, yet he was hearing voices. Was he dead, he thought. Maybe his brain was just as injured as his wing. Giwin looked up the yellow-colored cliff in front of him, the sun obscuring the figure. But from what he could tell, it seemed to be a dragon. I think we will stop here for today. Thank you for your time, and hopefully you'll join me again soon. Goodbye, and I pray that the lore of your life will be ever fortunate.